All right, folks. Landan Quartemont here, coming to you with another recap of our most recent GDE office hours. Want to explain really quick what that is. So, just to break it down, GDE is Google Developer Experts, and it's a program that Google has developed within its own development ecosystem to bring an extra level of assistance to the community. So for those of you that are, using any of their tools, whether you're working in the native coding realm with AI and who knows what else, or if you're working with no-code tools like AppSheet and other features within Workspace, Google has developed this program to assist kind of everybody in that spectrum. So my focus is AppSheet and kind of the connected or auxiliary platforms that you might most interact with. And this GDE office hours is a weekly virtual meeting that I host. Although I don't know that I will exclusively host it. There may be others of us that do, but the focus is to help those in the AppSheet community to best utilize the tool, get essentially free questions answered, and assistance with your use case. So much of AppSheet is learning how to apply the concepts at a general level, and then how do I customize that to my use case? How do I best architect it for my use case? And so that's what GDE office hours is all about. It's about helping you, meeting you where you're at, and getting some free resourcing and assistance in that journey. With that being said, I want to jump into our recap. So our agenda that we covered, this was not pre-organized. This is just kind of how it ended up flowing once we got into the meeting and realized where everybody was at. And so a couple things that we covered. We dove into one of the users' use cases, and they are building kind of like a manufacturing application. And within their use case, they needed help with a couple of different areas. So right off the bat, we tried to tackle, how do we slice data? How do we filter data? And so we talked about constructing table slices. Then we went into filtering dropdowns within a form. So dynamic dropdown filters. We talked about user-based logic. So how do I customize an experience based off of a user's profile? So if I know that they work for this manufacturing plant, how can I filter the data to what is most relevant to them? And then finally, we discussed the select expression or query. Now, I will say this was not a super deep dive on all of these concepts, especially not this select expression. A select expression would really merit a whole session, if not a series. It really is that powerful, and you could just benefit from a lot of content there. So in addition to what we talk about here, I will try to link in the description some of our other videos on the select expression to give you some of, a little more context and background and assistance through that expression. All right. So to kind of preface, we're going to jump into this video a little bit later into our conversation, mainly to protect the confidentiality of the use case. And so whenever we jump in, we will have already discussed what the use case is doing and a little bit about the thought process behind the app. And so we're jumping straight into actually changing things within the app. So just want to give you a heads up about that beforehand. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so let's jump into a view that you're hoping to filter better.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. Okay, for example, if I come here to this chart, I am seeing these palomitas de maíz that are popcorn. This is raw material that is was record in Colombia, but all the users are going to be all the records from Colombia and from Mexico. I need to make some kind of filter that if my user is was created with the Plan Colombia. Only see the data of Colombia. I have
Okay.
this table of collaborators. I have a column that link the collaborator with the plant ID. So I think this would be the reference that we can use to filter the data, the plantas, the plant.
Okay, so what's the difference between a plant and a raw material?
And what is the what?
The difference between a plant and a raw material?
Okay, the plant is the factory.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes, like, okay, a manufacturing plant.
Yeah, the manufacturing plant.
I see. Okay,
So,
so
so
the collaborators
the,
table are your users, and a user is assigned to a specific manufacturing plant.
exactly.
Okay, okay, great. Now, on your main tables, is there also a plant specific column? Do you have a plant ID column related to?
No, in all the tables or in the most of the table, like they are records,
Let
inputs and
so
outputs.
let's just talk
They
about your current table. So currently we're looking at
okay,
the raw materials table.
okay, raw
So
materials
in your
table.
raw materials table, do you have a plant column?
No, when I register the entry of raw material, let me show you. 1 second here. Here, where I register the entry of or the input of raw material, I need to enter the collaborator ID, the user ID,
Okay, gotcha. So
whom is
it's
linked
interesting.
to
So
the
this is a child table to the actual raw materials table, right?
exactly.
Okay. Now on the right hand side of your screen, we are looking directly at the parent table though. Um,
Yes.
and I wonder if we should be actually looking at the entradas materias primas table.
Okay. Know how to do that. This is it. I only have a one record right now.
Okay. Okay. Huh.
But
To
for
do.
example, I will add. This is another example. Here, I am going to add a new record, right? Entry of raw material
Uh-huh.
collaborator. Here, I'm seeing all the users from
Okay.
Mexico and Colombia.
Okay.
I would like to see this filter here, right? This is the first challenge. The same for the supplier. I'm seeing all suppliers from Colombia and also from Mexico.
Okay.
If I am a user from Colombia, I need to see only the supplier from Colombia.
I see. I see.
Uh,
Okay.
I choose one.
So that
I
feels like a more straightforward example that we could try to tackle right now. So
Okay,
why don't we
perfect,
do that?
perfect.
So the first thing I want to look at is in your collaborators table, do you have an association with a location like Colombia or
Yeah,
it,
the factory plan.
okay. Okay. Um is there a location associated in the plant table? Is that a column in the plant table?
Yes, let me check. Yes, we have the country.
Okay, perfect.
That
So
is
yeah, that's important to know. Um,
okay.
and I think probably the easiest thing to do here is to create a virtual column in the collaborators table. that brings in the associated country based on the plant that a collaborator is assigned to.
Create a virtual
Yes.
column
Virtual
that
column.
brings.
Yes. So you can just call this like V Pais.
Okay.
Pais is country. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And we want to dereference the country from the plant.
Country. Okay. Here.
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Okay. So the next question is for our suppliers. Is there also an association with the country? Is there a country column in the
Mm,
suppliers table?
yes.
Okay.
Let me see. Mm, no, I have no. I haven't. I haven't yet that association. I need to add it.
Okay. Yeah. So. Okay, but there's a plant associated.
Yes.
Okay, so we can do the same thing with with the suppliers. We can create a virtual
Okay.
column and dereference the country from the plant.
Okay. Perfect.
So here we're going to do virtual pais. So you've already got a column that is referencing the plant. So no need to double create that. So this one's just going to give us the country.
Okay. So I go to plan again,
Correct?
and is that
So it should be planta ID dot um, I forget the name of the pais
um,
column, but in brackets. Uh, let's see. There you go. Yes, and we want to put planta pais. Yeah,
place?
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's save that. All right. The reason that I had you add those is because it's easiest to filter whenever there is a one-to-one match in values that you're going to be
Okay.
comparing.
Okay.
Now, generally speaking, we've got three macro categories of comparison that we can do. We can
Okay.
compare a value to a value.
Okay.
We can determine whether or not a value is inside of a list of values,
Okay.
or we can determine if there is an overlap of values within a larger list of values. So
Okay.
you've got one list over here that is A, B, and C, and then you have one list over here that is B, C, and D. Those are going to have an overlap of B and C. And so
Okay.
sometimes it's helpful to make that sort of comparison. Now, in this
Okay.
case, we're making it as simple as possible, and we're going to compare a value with another value of like
Okay.
nature.
Done.
So we're going to enter your raw materials entry table. Yep, perfect. Let's see. Which one? Is this the one that has You need to be able to
The
select the suppliers for.
this one.
Okay, great. Yeah. So here, uh, first thing I would do is I want to check to see if you have a slice that already references the current user. So, do you have a slice on your collaborators
No,
table?
no.
Okay, let's take a look at
Ah,
that.
okay. I have one.
Okay, what is this? Okay,
Mm,
so I'll give you an example of what I do in most of my applications.
okay,
Um, I would create another slice for this table,
okay.
and you're going to call this slice current user
Current
or
user.
current collaborator.
Okay.
Correct. And we're going to add a row filter condition here. Have you worked much with slices before?
Just a little bit. Just the last week.
Okay, okay. It's helpful for me to visualize, especially when I was just beginning to work with different data sets. How you understand these row filter conditions is going to be very helpful when it comes to knowing how you want to actually construct a filter. So it's important to realize that AppSheet is going line by line through every row in your table, and it's going to apply this condition. And if this condition returns true, ultimately, it includes that row in the slice. If
Okay.
it doesn't return true, then it will be excluded from the slice.
Okay, perfect.
Does that make sense?
That is clear. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we can create a custom expression here.
Okay.
And we want the, let's see, the collaborator email column.
Generator, then colon.
And we're going to compare this with the current user's email. So you can put equals user email, and you can type that out as one word. This is a function, this is a native function in AppSheet.
Okay.
And then open parenthesis and close parenthesis. Anytime you're referencing a function, it's always going to have parentheses. The
Okay,
parentheses
perfect.
are to allow for any additional arguments that the
Okay.
function may accept.
Okay.
So every time a user authenticates and logs into a secure AppSheet app, AppSheet will pull their email.
Okay.
And it validates that against the user whitelist. So whenever you add users to your application, you invite their email.
Okay.
And every email is unique. So whenever you have a user table, in many cases you can use their email as the primary key. You don't actually have to have a separate primary key. It's not
Okay.
it's not a problem to, but sometimes it's just easier. So here what we're doing is we're comparing this email column with the current logged in user's email.
Okay.
And so again, this is going to go through every row in the user table, and it's going to evaluate whether or not that collaborator email column equals the current user's email. So if I'm logged into the app, it's going to, question, is the collaborator email column equal to Landan@crewtech.com,
Okay.
right? Okay, so you can save this. And again, I use this in pretty much every application I make because
Okay.
what it's going to do is make referencing other user attributes so much faster. And we'll walk through that
Okay.
here in just a moment.
Perfect.
So now let's go ahead and save our changes. And I want you to copy that slice name. It's going to be helpful to use.
Okay.
All right. And then we're going to jump back into our raw material entry table, the one where we add both suppliers and
Yeah.
the collaborators. Okay, great. Yes, Leroy is in agreement. He uses this in pretty much all of his applications as well. Okay, so the first column that we want to filter is the collaborator column. So why don't we click into that, and we are going to add a valid if condition. There are a couple different ways that you can filter list dropdowns. In most cases, you're going to be using the valid if. In some smaller use cases, you may use the suggested values, which is actually in the auto compute dropdown. But for our purposes here, we're going to be using the valid if dropdown or expression there. Correct. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be comparing values with values here with the country column. And it's important to know that whenever you make a reference, AppSheet secretly knows what to supply in this valid if and how to generate a dropdown for you simply by determining which table you indicated as the reference table. Now, oftentimes we need to get more specific than just adding the whole table, and that's where this valid if comes in handy. So what we need to do is we need to generate a list of primary keys for your collaborators table. In order to do that, people use different variations of this expression, but I think it's easiest just to learn one, and I'm going to recommend learning the select query or the select expression, which is going to help you generate dynamic lists of any table.
Okay.
Have you used this expression before?
I have used it, but I don't.
It's difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely understand that. So the first thing that I want to point out here is because we're referencing a different table, it is very important that we return a list of data values that AppSheet is expecting.
Okay.
And because it's looking at a different table, because this is a reference column, we need to supply the primary key values for that table.
Okay.
Now, whenever we were modifying your slice earlier, I noticed that I believe you have an ID column or a key column for your collaborators table. It's not that email. But yes, like I mentioned in other cases, oftentimes I don't actually have a separate identifier for a user table. I, in many cases, use the email. But I just wanted to differentiate so that as we walk through this, you know why I'm suggesting to use the columns that I am. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, and this is a function, so we're going to wrap it in parentheses. All right, so the first thing it's looking for is we need to give it a data set, which we generally do by supplying a table name and then a specific column from that table that we want to retrieve. So because we are supplying values for the collaborators table, we're going to use the collaborators table name, and this is not going to be wrapped in any brackets. This is just writing out the name.
Okay. Collaborators.
Yes, and this is actually going to go inside of the select expression.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect.
This should be high caps or low cap, or it doesn't matter.
Generally, you want to do it the same as what you'll see on that. There you go. Yeah. And so AppSheet automatically knew that because you were indicating a table, the next thing you need is a column. And so we want the column ID, the ID column from that table.
Perfect.
All right, perfect. I think we added one too many columns there. Okay, so you can remove the second colaboradores
Yeah.
And then we've got double brackets around that, so we actually just want single
Okay.
brackets. Great. All right, so the next thing you need is after you declare your data set, which we are, this currently, this is going to return every collaborator ID in the collaborators table. So
Okay.
we obviously don't want every ID. We want the IDs that correspond with the state of the current user, right? So
Okay.
in order to do that, we want to, I guess for syntax sake, after your column, you're going to put a comma. So after collaborator ID, we put a comma, and then we supply a row filter condition. So this is just like a slice now. And the
Okay.
row filter condition that we want is we created this virtual column called virtual pais.
Should be here. Oh, yes, this
Yep,
one.
there you go. And it added the collaborators on there. You can actually remove that. We don't need the colaboradores. All right, and we want to set that equal to,
Uh, all inside the brackets, right? Right.
correct. Yep. And we're going to set that equal to the current user's virtual pais. So I had you copy that slice name that we created, but if you don't have it copied, it's fine. I think you called it current colaboradores, or yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
what it is. Okay, great. So and a slice is going to be used by AppSheet the exact same as a table. So if you want to return a value from a slice, you need to indicate a column afterward. So you've got
Column.
the table
Okay.
name, which is your slice, and then that the column is going to be virtual pais.
Okay. Okay. One moment.
Yep, there you go. Perfect. Okay. All right. So that is our select expression. Oh, sorry. So whenever you return a a query of values, it's
Hmm?
always going to be returned in list form. So
Okay.
it's helpful to know that because you may run into scenarios where you know that you're returning one value, but it's actually a list of one value, and in order to extract the one value from the list, we usually wrap this query in an any function. So before your current collaborator slice, you're going to uh, type out any, and then open parenthesis, and then at the very end, you'll do another closing parenthesis. So this takes a list of one element and it just makes it a single string, a text value.
Okay.
So
This any so this any expression convert take the list that I generate with the select and take just one data.
correct, yes. It
Okay.
it is. I think in theory it's supposed to take a randomly selected value from a list of values, but I think in most cases it just takes the first one. So that's just helpful functionality to know. You could also wrap it in a text function if you knew you only had one value in your list. Then you instead of doing an any function, you could have done a text function, and it would have extracted it as a single string.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. So it should be working now.
So now we should be able to add a new one, and if we look at the collaborators, we'll find only the collaborators that have the same country as the plant that you're in.
Yeah, 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 man. Wow, excellent.
So and
Excellent.
you can supply
I
uh,
can make the same with that, right?
exactly.
Yes, yes.
So
I will do
that's
it.
our next step.
Okay.
That select expression is worth a lot of study. So
Yeah.
I know that we went over it quickly, and I tried to break it down for you, but I understand that it's a new concept and it's a challenging
Yeah.
concept. And even if I explain it to the best of my ability, it's still going to be difficult for you to wrap your mind around, at least at the start. So
Yeah.
continue practicing with it. Was there an element of that that was particularly difficult for you to understand?
Um, everything, but don't worry. I will study it and I will try to reply in all the slices I need. And I will let you know the next session how it goes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, do you want to try to create the drop down for your supplier now?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I
Let
think the
me
easiest
see.
thing to do is actually to grab the valid if function we just created from your
Yeah.
collaborator table or from the collaborator ID column. I think well, I think you had it. You're in the right place. So let's go back to the raw material entry table.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
hold on. Is this
Oh, this is not the one.
yeah. Let's. So this is a column that I'm actually hoping that you can open. So let's go to the raw material entry table that has
Okay.
the supplier. Yeah. So let's open up the collaborator ID column. Let's so before we jump into the supplier, let's actually go back to the collaborator ID column, and I'm gonna have you copy the expression that we added in your valid if.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so now we'll jump into the supplier column. All right. So now we want to, instead of referencing the collaborators table, we're going to reference our supplier table. So that's the first thing that we're going to change.
Yeah.
What is it? Pro. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead and insert that. Excellent. Now it has a C on the front of it. You'll need to remove that at the very beginning, right after your opening
Oh yeah.
parenthesis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now this you
I
can
need to
actually.
create.
So in this case,
Sorry.
you actually don't need to change anything. Now the
Okay.
reason is because if you recall,
Yeah.
our current collaborator slice is it's giving us the current user's most relevant information. And again, it's just returning
It's
one row that relates to the current user. Now
yeah.
we're
It's already giving me the info about the country, about the
exactly so
location.
we're just pulling in the country of the current user and we're comparing that with the country of the supplier table.
Yeah.
And so AppSheet is going through each row in the supplier table and it's returning the supplier ID where the virtual country is equal to the current user's virtual country. That's what that means.
Perfect. 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 Yeah. It's working.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, oh, amazing, man.
Okay.
How long have you been working with the AppSheet?
I've been working with AppSheet for a little over 5 years.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay,
so I began at the very beginning of 2019.
okay,
It's a
okay.
very, very fun tool to work with. And it's been, ever since I've started working, I've expanded my reach into other technologies as well. But my understanding of AppSheet has actually helped me do much better with new technologies. So the way that I understand even coding and understand databases has been largely impacted from my work with AppSheet. And I have a much greater understanding of relational data sets after working with AppSheet that you can then apply to so many other areas in technology. So it is very, very helpful. And it's still such a fun tool to work with. So I'm excited that
Yeah,
you're picking it up and getting some success with it. Um, we are at time. Um, so Leroy, I
Landan.
know we didn't give you any time. Is there something that you wanted to cover as well, or do you want to wait until a future week?
Hopefully once we could have more of these sessions, I don't mind waiting because today I didn't get catch off guard, so I would love a situation where because currently I didn't make it into my office in time to actually one of the companies currently on my phone right now.
No worries.
But the exact same way we run the application today with that share screen. It would be lovely if I could get an opportunity to do something like that, open up my app and just go through some of the things. I think that would be a much faster way to kind of grasp the concept.
Yeah,
So I don't mind the ways because I do understand that we're at time. But I guess for future sessions, at least how it's going to help me. I think maybe my understanding of the user settings might probably help. I have a feeling maybe I don't grasp how to implement that correctly, since that will come in handy with the filtering. Um, like I said, the end
yeah,
goal for me is that I would like to filter my based on time so that I'm not overloading um,
of course.
the application with too much data. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that sounds great. Well, Roman, thanks for jumping in today. It was a pleasure having you. Study, study, study on that select expression. It is going to be very, very helpful.
No, Landan, thanks a lot to you. You really saved me, I don't know, maybe 2 months of working.